Hello everybody, my name is Phoenix, and I am yet again here to talk about Forsaken today. So today I wanted to discuss my thoughts and opinions on every single character on the roster, killers, survivors. This could end up being kind of a long video, so be prepared to skip around. Some things to note before I do get into it: I am going to be very casual match, public match forward on my mindset here. I am not a Forsaken veteran, and I've never played competitively, never scrimmed with good players, or I'm sure this would look very different if I had. This is ultimately going to be based off of my own opinions and experiences, and may look very different from how you feel about these characters or would rank them yourself, and that's perfectly okay. I'm going to start from the least liked to most liked, and I'm going to end on characters that I like the most, and of course timestamps will be in the description below. I am taking into account playing as these characters, playing against them as the opposite role, and also having them as a teammate. Skill issue and playtime is definitely a factor on my part. I'm not overly knowledgeable, competent, or comfortable on every single character, so there is definitely going to be some clear bias. Although for the purposes of this video, I did try to put time and effort into everyone. This is not intended to be disrespectful to people that like these characters or to bash them by any means. This is all just my personal experience, and I have respect for everyone that mains a character. Hate the character, not the player.
I'm going to kill you and then kill you again.
Starting off with bottom of the barrel of my least liked characters is going to be Two Time. They are a squishy glass cannon and they are annoying as fuck. They punish a killer very hard with a stun and a self heal, which can potentially wipe killer's pressure out in the blink of an eye. Do I think they're overpowered? No, absolutely not. I do think they're powerful, but well balanced by their oblation requirements and lower health pool. They definitely have to earn their second life, but a competent Two Time is one of the most annoying survivors for me to personally play against. It feels like they use every trick in the book to land the most asinine backstabs. Trick stabs can be very difficult to avoid if you're not experienced and comfortable with maneuvering your camera or character model in a specific way. Yes, this is mostly skill issue on my part. My reaction time is not great, so I really suffer playing against this character. I'm also absolute hot dog water at landing stabs myself, so my experience playing as this character is not really a fun one. If a sneaky Two Time lands a backstab on me, I feel like I have no choice but to commit to that chase so they can't fully fill their oblation meter, and so they won't be a problem later on. Yes, anyone caught out of position should be a target, but Two Time especially feels like a survivor that needs to be focused and dealt with early in the match. Or you risk losing pressure because of them later on. Their 80 health pool also makes them a potentially quick kill if they're caught whiffing a stab or in an advantageous position for the killer. A bad or inexperienced Two Time falls apart in seconds and can really bring a team down, although this point can be made for literally every character on the roster. They have such high highs and they can be a game changer on a survivor team and frustrating for the killer to deal with, but they also have some of the lowest lows on the roster. However, ending on a positive note, I like that the crouch stab can also be used as a chase extender to grant extra distance. I love when characters have this nuance to them that most average players don't even think about or consider doing. And when really experienced or skilled players show just how expressive they can be, Two Time is a really good example of this, and I will never be mad about losing to it in-game. I also like the recent changes that Two Time got, and while they are considered a nerf and were somewhat controversial within the Two Time player base, I can appreciate that they play more like a support Sentinel hybrid versus a pure Sentinel that buzzes around the killer like a mosquito the whole game, and actually brings a lot more utility to the team when played in a more supportive way. I feel like really good Two Time players will hardly be seen and will jump in when they are needed the most. I'm actually kind of surprised I don't like this character more, because I have a lot of playtime on Reaper in Overwatch, who is also more of a stealth assassin, similar to Two Time, with kind of a lurk and pounce playstyle.
How can I do this? How can I be so stupid? This could destroy the company.
The company? Who cares about the company? What about us? That thing is a killing machine!
Alright, so up next for least liked characters is 007 in 7. He is a survivalist, and he's also a very difficult character to get value out of. I don't have much to say about N7 because I find them to be a little bit dull to play personally. No offense to the people that like this guy. His main goal is to survive as a survivalist, duh, as long as possible. However, I don't feel like he offers much utility to the team overall. His biggest skill expression is the ability to clone parry, and while this can be helpful, it's also relatively easy to bait and difficult to successfully execute against a smart or patient killer. Not to mention it's also a very situational tool, and realistically only useful in a 1v1, not so much providing resources to the 1v4 or to the team as a whole. However, I do like the mind games that go into it and the back and forth it creates between both players. He can use his clones to body block for teammates, but again, easy to bait, hard to successfully pull off, and I feel like he fills the same niche as Mirage used to in Apex Legends. For the longest time, Mirage was considered a weak character, but the thrill of successfully bamboozling enemies was also a nice dose of serotonin. When you throw out a clone as N7, he becomes invisible and undetectable by aura reading for a few seconds. This can be valuable depending on the killer or the situation, and throwing your clone out from around corners can successfully throw off a killer, granting you just enough time to gain stamina advantage or flat out dropping chase if the killer just is not paying attention. As a John Doe main, this character frustrates me since he can use his clones to remove digital footprints at no cost to himself, removing my ability to snowball. Stop it. Fucking 07. But doing this still gives John the speed boost from the trap being activated, so ultimately can still be more harmful to the team than helpful if the killer is actively chasing someone in the moment that the trap is activated. Situational, but it does happen. It seems like once the clone is on cooldown, he just has nothing to really help himself or his team and can't really do much. The teleport's okay. It's huge distance at the cost of a very long windup, but doesn't offer much utility, and it's ultimately a very selfish ability. Again, I'm not super competent on this character, so it's very possible that I'm missing something important, but in my experience, this guy is just not very good. His survivability is okay, successfully landing a clone parry is massively satisfying, but after that, there's just not much else. I will say that he has one of the better last man standing games than most. The teleport can give you valuable distance and time. The killer has no choice but to respect your potential to clone parry, and again, wastes time. And being able to successfully land it at the last second can win you the last man standing. I've been watching a lot more competitive play and higher level players, and honestly, I will say watching a genuinely skilled player play this character is actually kind of hype moments and aura all around. But again, not something you usually see in public games, so in my experience, doesn't happen all that often.
Me too.
Guest 1337, one of the biggest memes in Forsaken, and probably the most popular and the most volatile survivor. They are either one of the best teammates you'll ever have, or they are just utterly garbage and will single-handedly be the reason your team loses the whole round. I'm gonna be so for real, I had the worst time playing this character and trying to learn him for the sake of this video. The fact that he's such a popular survivor makes me think that it's maybe just a situation of the majority of players being hyper-casual, and that's why you see a lot of bad guest players. But some of the closest moments I've ever had to absolutely crashing out have been because of this fucking character. Not that he's terrible to play against, I actually don't mind playing against guests, and really good ones are kind of a fun challenge to overcome, but when I have one on my team that is using their charge to push the killer closer to me while I'm being chased, it makes me want to rip my hair out every single time. To me, Guest is a true sentinel, and his whole job is to be a protector for his team. His kit is designed for him to throw himself into the line of fire and defend whoever the killer is currently chasing. I think this kind of power fantasy is also what draws a lot of people to Guest, and so why so many of them are slamming gens and emoting in the corner of the map doing absolutely nothing, I will never understand. His character is all about mind games and being able to quickly react to the killer's actions. Not necessarily a mechanically demanding survivor, but one that makes you have to play smart and patient. His block ability is the bane of every casual player's existence, speaking from experience, and was one of the earliest challenges I remember having to learn to deal with when I started playing. Now that I have more experience under my belt, I know to bait blocks, especially when they're actively running up on me, throwing themselves into my chase. He's probably going to block for his teammate. Even though it can be baited and dealt with easily, there are situations where the block ability can be difficult to handle. It can be used to block abilities that the killer can't necessarily cancel or deal with simply. This mostly affects killers with some sort of dash ability like Cool Kid, Sixer, and Noli. Walk Speed Override can be blocked, Sixer's Demonic Pursuit can be blocked, and Noli trying to Void Rush can also be blocked, which can lead to some interesting mind games, but can also be frustrating for the Noli player, as you can feel truly helpless to deal with it at times. In the world of Dead by Daylight, this is very much akin to the perk Dead Hard, which grants temporary immunity to attacks and has been one of the most meta-defining perks for several years. It is a perk that is also easy to bait, but can also force the killer into a lose-lose situation, and has very similar pain points as Guest's block ability. It can grant immunity to dash attacks and even projectiles. If Guest successfully blocks an attack, he's granted the ability to punch and stun the killer. He can either use this immediately after blocking, which is known as a parry, or he can pocket the punch and use it at a later time. I kind of take issue with the fact that he can just indefinitely pocket the punch and use it whenever he wants to, but I'm no expert on game balance, I don't know how I'd necessarily change it. Those who are good at react blocking still give me difficulty when I'm playing killer, but it's something I'm working to improve on and learn how to counter, even if it means swinging at air to bait a block. His charge ability is a useful tool for supporting a struggling teammate, and as long as you push the killer away from your teammate and not towards them, it can give them extremely useful distance and time to recover stamina and have an advantage in chase. I think Guest 1337 is probably the biggest offender of character stacking being a bit of a problem in Forsaken, because it can be quite annoying when you have a group of 2 or maybe 3 Guests players all hovering around each other, and it can also put the killer into this really frustrating situation where even if the Guest that you're chasing has used their block, another Guest player can swoop in and block for them, or they can all stack in this ant mound of Guest players and they can all block for each other. Maybe it's just my inexperience, or maybe it's my skill issue showing a little bit here, but I find it really difficult to deal with it when they're all clustered together like that. And also, when Guest uses his block ability, he has hit priority. So if you are chasing a Elliot or a Dusekkar, and maybe they're low on health, maybe you're about to get that kill, and then Guest comes and he flies in out of nowhere and he blocks, you physically cannot swing around him. The exception being if you're playing a killer that has like a ranged ability, but if you were using a basic M1 and you are about to grab that kill, he is going to tank that hit and there's nothing that you can do about it. And that I find is very bad game design. And it's also really, really frustrating to deal with in game. I'm always grateful for a decent Guest that helps me out when I'm being chased and actually fills his role the way he's supposed to. But I absolutely cannot stand those who do nothing or don't play the character that they chose to select. These next few characters I feel more indifferently about than anything else, and I don't have particularly strong feelings one way or the other for most of them. Veeronica is a character I haven't played a lot of, and I have been absolutely destroyed by good players. But because she is more of a challenging survivor, I feel like I don't see her very often, unless they're new or just absolutely legendary players. My biggest problem is how much of a target priority she has to be, because once a V has set up her web of sprays, she is an absolute menace to deal with. and if I see one in the lobby while I'm playing killer, I find it necessary to take her out of the round first before she has a chance to set up. If you ignore V the whole game and leave her for LMS or late game, she feels like an absolute terror with her mobility and self-sustaining battery that she's been allowed to build up throughout the round. Even after the nerf she received after her implementation into the game, I still think she's a very strong character and can provide utility to her team with her bumper mode, which, like Guest, can be useful in providing space to a vulnerable teammate. To me, she seems like a dual class that can fill both a sentinel role and a survivalist role, without being fully committed to either one with her multiple modes. Personally, I feel like chasing a good V is a huge time sink, especially if she has been allowed to set up her sprays, and now I have to dedicate time to breaking them so she can't just zip between them and chase. So she can potentially put a killer into a lose-lose situation where you have to make the choice to ignore her and let her set up for free if she runs you around too much, or commit to the target and make sure that she's not a nuisance later on. I think her kit is actually pretty fun in small doses, however, her ability to trick off walls is super cool, and not many characters have verticality like she does. She has her own set of challenges, not being able to heal with typical means like medkits, Elliot's pizza, or Builderman dispensers, and having to rely purely on her battery and good chase stamina fundamentals to survive a round. Having a V on my team feels like it could go one way or the other. If she is actively using her bumper ability to help out and chase, then she can be a valuable asset. But most of the time, I won't see them jump and help, and they're simply filling their battery, waiting for LMS to start so they can trick circles around the killer. Which would be fine, but can be irritating since V has a decent amount of team play potential. Builderman is definitely one of the more straightforward supports. Builderman, well, he builds things. He is a support character with a smaller health pool of 90 HP and the ability to build 2 key items. One of them is a health dispenser that will heal anyone that stands underneath it very slowly, but is great for recovering health from chip damage. The other item is a turret that shoots at the killer when they are in range and slows them down, making it a valuable chase extender at the expense of it being an immobile item that he must continually rebuild as it gets destroyed. Builderman has his place in the meta, and from what I understand is just okay for me personally. I can recognize his value in a team comp, and I am grateful when I have one on my team, but I don't find his gameplay the most engaging because of how hands-off it is. You have to build your turret at opportune moments where the killer simply won't rotate to you, and while this does create a level of skill requirement, positioning knowledge, and strategy, I just find it kind of boring. I do enjoy playing Builderman occasionally, but only find enjoyment for so long. Since you are playing a key support, you also need to be good at chase fundamentals since you are a high priority target, and if the killer has an opportunity to kill you, they most definitely will. It can also be a frustrating experience when I try and set up in an area I know is good for my turret, and my teammates just flat out refuse to even try to utilize me as a resource and die as a result. This is mostly a solo queue issue, as teams with coordination can work around Builderman much more efficiently. But sometimes I do wish my public lobby teammates would use their brain and not run to me while I'm still actively building my turret, or just use my turret sometimes when you're being chased. Please, for the love of God, do not change your path and run right at me when I just started building! Sometimes I like the more backseat option of playing Builderman or just support characters in general. I don't always want to play so aggressively, and taking on a more passive role for a round or two can be a nice breath of fresh air. Oh, Chance. I have to admit there's nothing much more hysterical and forsaken than the Chance player on my team, or that I'm chasing as killer, dramatically lining up his shot, just like John Marston in the finale of the Red Dead Redemption, only for him to have his gun blow up in his face. Chance is the token gambling character of Forsaken, and acts as a ranged sentinel whose whole utility revolves around his gun. The catch-22 is that this gun has 3 possible outcomes. He fires it successfully, and if the shot lands, will stun the killer for a couple of seconds. The shot won't fire, and simply nothing happens. And lastly, well... Chance also has another ability where he can re-roll his health pool. He can roll a health pool less than 70, making him possibly the squishiest survivor on the team. Or he can roll a health pool closer to 130 HP, making him much tankier. He also has this gimmick where he can coin flip, and landing on heads will grant him 1 token, up to a maximum of 3 tokens towards his abilities. Landing on tails will grant him a stack of weakness, which means any damage that he takes from anything is multiplied. More stacks on his abilities means they have a higher probability of having a positive outcome, but it is never guaranteed. Chance is definitely a character I have to take in small doses. The RNG can only be tolerated for so long. The inconsistency can be extremely frustrating, while it does also make for some pretty comical moments. There are very few things in Forsaken that are as frustrating as getting caught at stamina disadvantage or in a bad position while you have multiple stacks of weakness. Chance has the potential to be a game changer. Landing 1 good shot can save a teammate's life and buy them enough time to turn the tide of the chase into their favor. As an example, this game was recorded from the POV of this 2-time, who is my partner Yoshi, though I was playing Chance and was able to get very lucky shots that allowed him to make distance and valuable space against this slasher, running him for nearly 3 minutes and winning our team the game. Yoshi played this chase extremely well, but I know that the shots I took were also very impactful in this match in particular and really showcase how team-oriented Forsaken is supposed to be. It can definitely be a little disheartening to be chased by the killer and see your Chance lining up a shot that could be critical, only for him to have his gun not fire or see it explode in his face.
Pizza time.
Elliot is the definitive healer of the game and considered by many to be the strongest survivor, or even the strongest character in the game in general. Even considered broken and overtuned by a lot of the higher caliber players. I'll cut right to the chase. This is my brain off character. If I want to play Forsaken but don't necessarily feel like putting a whole lot of effort into my gameplay, Elliot is right there. His biggest drawbacks are his health pool being the lowest default health in the game with 80 HP, and the fact that he is the healer with his pizza toss makes him a very high priority target. So I would say that you should have at least decent chase fundamentals to play this character. However, Rush Hour is a thing that still exists in the game. Rush Hour, for my Dead by Daylight folks, is like Sprint Burst on crack, and you can use it whenever you want as long as you have a token with no downside like exhaustion. A good team will also never let their Elliot die, and in between rotating his pizza cooldown with his Rush Hour cooldown, it's possible for Elliot to be completely untouchable for the entire round. Elliot can extend his life and get out of situations that other survivors can't just because of Rush Hour. He can also use it aggressively to throw his pizza at a teammate that critically needs help. He can jump in, throw pizza, heal his teammate, and then Rush Hour out with little to no detriment to himself. Elliot is also incredibly easy to pick up and play with a very simple kit. Elliot players as teammates definitely need to have some sort of brain cell, because if they waste their Rush Hour or just get caught in a bad place, they die, like, instantly, because of how squishy he is. That being said, a good Elliot is invaluable to a team, as he's the main source of heals and can be difficult to catch depending on the skill of the player and the team. Yes, Elliot's section is pretty short, because what is there to really say that hasn't already been said by others? He is a very high reward character with very low risk, and I think he's probably the biggest problem that Forsaken has right now in terms of balance. I think that could be stated for all of the supports as well. Dusekkar is also really strong, we'll talk about him in a bit, but I think Elliot definitely needs some fine-tuning, and I think what's really frustrating from a killer standpoint is knowing how powerful Elliot is, and then seeing the rest of the community complain that he needs buffs because of how easily he gets targeted, when it's ultimately a skill issue on the survivor's part, because honestly, as long as your team is defending you, and as long as you are rotating your cooldowns properly, you should never be caught at the end of the day.
for no man. So be it.
Take my lictor forward class. Hi-ya!
In my opinion, Shedletsky is probably the most balanced character in the game. He is also one of the starting characters everyone gets to learn the game, and is the only starting sentinel. He is the perfect example of a simple but effective kit. A good Shedletsky can ruin a killer with a well-timed slash from his sword, and also has the luxury of a self-heal to reset damage he may take trying to help his team. I find him to be a good character that teaches good fundamentals and doesn't necessarily need any changes to balance. I don't really vibe with Sentinels all that much, but I would be much more inclined to play Shedletsky over a character like Guest. He also has the consistency that Chance lacks, and the survivability that not a lot of characters have, with the exception of Jane Doe. I wish I had more to say about Shed, but I really don't, other than, yeah, he's cool, well-rounded, and very balanced. I'm never mad about a Shedletsky on my team, as they have a very reliable and consistent ability to stun the killer and save a vulnerable teammate, and he has enough of a learning curve to make him not feel like utter bullshit. His slash is telegraphed enough that a killer that is paying attention can still react to it, but he has ample opportunities to catch a killer off guard while they are chasing somebody else. He is a character that is effective at all levels, and I can really appreciate that. Also, I may be inherently biased because he does have a James Sunderland skin from Silent Hill 2 as well.
I'll handle this, mate. Oi, fish face! Do something! Hey, Scungili! Got it! Look what I got. I got a jar of dirt, I got a jar of dirt, and guess what's inside it?
The newest addition to the Survivor roster, and also one of the more lore-driven characters in the game. To unlock Jane Doe, you have to complete her quest in the basement of the lobby, and she cannot be currently purchased, although this may change in the future, I'm not sure. From a lore perspective, of course I like her, because she is the wife of John Doe, who's my favorite killer. Her story is tragic if you read into the details. Imagine being thrown into a realm of monsters and darkness only to find your husband turned into a watermelon shark? Anyway, these two characters definitely have me invested as someone who appreciates lore and storytelling, and I like that the final item you have to find in a round to unlock her is her wedding ring. And her milestone 4 is also implied to be her wedding dress, which, I mean, just punch me in the feels, that's fine, I guess. She also has a unique track that plays during the Last Man Standing against John, which I didn't really like it at first, but it has definitely grown on me. I think the only thing that keeps me from placing Jane higher on my personal list is that she is a sentinel, and as we've established, I suck at hitting stuns. Her stun is definitely unique, which I like about her. She's not a very easy character, and is a bit more mechanically demanding than most others on the roster. She has a scaling status effect that she can apply to killers called Resonance, which looks like John Doe's Corruption, but has this blue periwinkle color. She applies it to killers by tossing a crystal at them, and it has a small area of effect which can be applied indirectly and through walls as well. She can scale this resonance up to level 3, and the level is global, meaning any Jane in the lobby can level up the resonance, and it is the same for all of them. Once resonance is applied, she can use her hatchet and stun the killer. Her dash is unique in the sense that she does this kind of dash forward, and it's almost like a charge, but it's not. It's more of like a ranged stun, but not ranged like Chance, if that makes sense at all. I like it. Anyways, the higher the resonance, the longer the stun. You can swing at the killer with no resonance applied, it just won't stun. It'll slow them and lock them out of their abilities for a couple of seconds, though, so don't underestimate the utility that it does have. Jane also has a base health of 60 HP, but she has a unique sort of overhealth called Shatter Points, which have damage resistance, making her tanky as fuck, and Shatter Points can be restored by applying resonance and hitting stuns with her hatchet. Once the Shatter Points are all depleted, she cannot gain it back for a full 40 seconds, making her very vulnerable and squishy if you break them. She isn't very popular in my experience, probably because she takes a bit more effort and setup than the other Sentinels do, but I find her quite fun. And I like her unique gimmick with the shatter points. I also am usually very happy to see a Jane on my team, and stacked Janes typically mean a lot of replenishable health to chew through for the killer. This can also be frustrating as the killer player. A lobby full of them can be difficult as they're all pelting you with crystals and can be very time consuming to kill all of them. However, breaking her shatter point health makes her much easier to deal with, and her axe swing, while a powerful stun that should be respected, is extremely telegraphed and can be juked or dodged. She is a strong character and could maybe use some adjustments, but she's also still new. I would be personally okay if she stayed as is, and character stacking, as we discussed earlier with Guest, is just a problem that a lot of characters in this game suffer from, unfortunately.
I see you, Zap. I see you.
I'm gonna cut right to the chase with Dusekkar. He has a Jack Skellington skin. I'm literally obsessed with The Nightmare Before Christmas, ask anyone that knows me. Anyways, Dusekkar fills the role of being more of a utility support. He doesn't necessarily heal, but his zap ability can provide a temporary speed boost and overhealth to teammates, and slows killers on direct hits. He also has a sort of force field ability that puts a protective bubble on survivors that gives them massive damage resistance, and, if timed correctly, can completely prevent an otherwise guaranteed death. This character is super strong and definitely teeters on the edge of being very broken in the right hands at the expense of not really having anything to defend himself. When it comes to his bubbles, think Zarya bubbles from Overwatch. Like Elliot, Dusekkar takes on a bit more of a passive role, and typically will be hovering, literally, a good distance from where the chase is happening so that he can support from a good range away. He's definitely not an easy character that requires a good amount of game sense, good positioning, and the ability to be resourceful if the killer does decide to rotate to you. Again, this is a character I feel like I rarely see, but when I do, he is a complete game changer. On my killer games, he's a character I know I should be taking out first, much more so than even Elliot, or risk his abilities costing me kills when I need them. And unless the team has very good sentinels, Dusekkar himself doesn't give me trouble to kill. I think he rounds out a good team composition, and because of his difficulty, is a much more skill-expressive survivor, and that's something I really appreciate one way or the other. Also, this is just a personal thing and probably one big placebo effect, but something about his movement just feels different from others and feels nice to use. I'm sure it's ultimately no different, just feels that way because he's levitating, but it's just a thing that I personally really like about him. I appreciate characters like him who have a different spin on his support character, and his biggest downside is that he's very team reliant if he's the one taking aggro. I would definitely not be upset if this guy caught a nerf or two, and I'd likely still continue to play him regardless of if that happens or not. This is probably going to end up being the shortest section of the video, but Noob is one of your other 3 starting characters, and I feel if you are not interested in taking on a support or a sentinel, is the best character to start out. At least that was how I felt when I first picked up the game. I didn't really vibe with Shedletsky or Elliot at the time when I first started, and Noob was the only other option. But I did grow to like him, and Noob is a character I still very much enjoy playing from time to time. He's very much a survivalist, with his abilities designed around extending the chase and evading detection from aura reading. He's kind of a jack-of-all-trades survivalist. He has multiple tools in his arsenal that can be used for different situations. Like other survivalists, his gameplay is much more selfish than most, but if a killer sticks to Noob, he has the potential to survive for a very long time, although, also like the other survivalists, is not a very strong character, but this is not a balanced discussion. He comes equipped with a cola, which offers a speed boost after a short wind-up drink. He also has Ghost Burger, which grants him temporary invisibility. And lastly, he has Slate Skin, by far his strongest ability in my humble opinion. Slate Skin makes him very heavy, so he slows down to a crawl, but in return becomes resistant to basically all damage. This can be used as a sort of parry to a lot of abilities, such as Nully Void Rush, and can be used to remove John Doe footprints without taking damage yourself, although Not much more utility or team-oriented gameplay outside of that. It's not without some counterplay, which is good and indicative of good design. Killers can simply wait out your slate skin as long as they aren't impulsive and use their abilities after it's on cooldown, meaning you can ultimately get nothing out of it if it's not timed right. Noob is seemingly never a bad pick, although I find him really fun and I love having multiple options at my disposal, leading to fun mind games and potential for outplay on both sides. But again, being a survivalist, he's not a very team-oriented survivor, which I think does make him on the weaker end of the spectrum.
I think next time could you keep the boom out of the shot? Other than that, you're doing a super job.
This is humiliating. I'm not good at this boom thing.
Did somebody say boom?
And finally, to wrap up the survivor portion of this video, is my favorite survivor. Taph is the character that really made me keep playing Forsaken. During that initial introduction period, I couldn't quite find a survivor I liked enough, and I didn't have the rest of the roster unlocked just yet. Noob was okay, but didn't quite have the catch that I was looking for. And then I unlocked Taph, and something about them just immediately made me take a liking to them. Firstly, they look much different from the rest of the cast, with their almost ritualistic looking robe and hood. They are a support, but like Dusekkar, offer more utility to the team and are not a healer in any way, shape, or form. Taph is a trapper, who utilizes these tripwires that can be placed on the map, and if a killer walks through them, it slows them down and reveals their aura to all other survivors. Their real X-factor is the subspace trip mine. For my fellow Dead by Daylight players, you know the perk Blast Mine that gives you a little dose of serotonin whenever a killer kicks a generator and sets it off? That's exactly what this is, but on a cooldown. The trip mine is a small cube on the ground that takes a few seconds to arm, but once a killer walks into its area of effect, it detonates, inflicting anyone, this means survivors close enough to it, including Taph themselves, with subspace. Subspace turns your whole screen this bright purple and also forces your camera straight up in the air. You can imagine how annoying this can be for those inflicted, making Taph a very good disruptor. I really like how Taph is a character that can thrive being played passively or aggressively, and their abilities all work cohesively together very well. You can either set up all of your wires and trip mine in a particular area as a safety net, either for yourself or a teammate who might need it and you can run to it, or you can be proactive and set up just outside of a chase that's already happening. I personally prefer the latter, as my setup is more likely to be beneficial to the team if I try to set up close to where the chase is actively going on, versus banking on my team running to my already established setup. The mines can be destroyed. They also give off a faint purple glow when the killer gets close. The wires are also visible to the killer, so they can be destroyed before they are ever actually helpful. Taph can absolutely wreck an unaware killer, and there's times where I'm so focused on the chase in front of me that I continually fall for the Taph wires and mines, and ultimately lose momentum because of it. Once I know there's a Taph on the loose, I am definitely much more likely to change my target priority to them, assuming there are not other supports lurking around that should be focused first, because their disruptions and subspace status effects can be super costly. This very well could be my character bias showing, but I also can't be too irritated with Taph themselves, because I will only ultimately be falling for their tricks if I'm not paying enough attention to what's going on outside of my current chase. Taph doesn't play like any other survivor, and I absolutely love them for it. They are the survivor I've put the most time into, and probably my ride or die character. If you wanted a visualizer, here is my final list of survivors and how I would order them from my least favorite to my most favorite. To wrap up the survivor section, I think one thing that really sticks out to me about Forsaken's survivor roster is that none of the characters really step on each other's toes, with some exceptions. You could argue that Veeronica and Guest fill the same role and they do the same job, but I think they're different enough to warrant them being individual characters. And same thing with Builderman and Taph. You know, why would you ever play Builderman, who is arguably a lot weaker than Taph, when they do the same things with the turrets and the trip mine? However, I would still say, while Taph is stronger, Builderman has the utility and the supportive ability of the dispenser, whereas Taph has no healing power. You could make those arguments, but that's a whole different discussion. For the most part, I think all the survivors are unique and have something special about them that another survivor just doesn't bring to the table. And I like that there's enough variety for there to be something for everybody. Yes, survivors like Guest and Two Time are very popular because of how flashy they are. Even though their gameplay is definitely not for me, they were still characters that I do like and enjoy, and they may not be clippable or going into a TikTok compilation anytime soon. I still love and enjoy them, and personally, I've said personally a lot throughout this whole video because it has been a very personal video. That's enough for me at the end of the day. I know this video has been long, and I really thought about including all of the characters in a single video, but it was decided when I was writing the script that I think it would be best to talk about the killers in a separate video, so that'll be coming soon. So sorry for the egregious gameplay in the background of some of these sections. I absolutely promise I will not be touching Guest 1337 anytime soon. Keep your eyes peeled for the next video though, because I decided to go way more in depth with the killers on their lore and even their music in some cases. As always, thank you so much for watching. I seriously appreciate all the support and all the love, and it really motivates me to keep working on fun little projects like this in my free time. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.